Hello there, comic book fans. Hope you've had a great new comic book day. In fact, it's a free comic book day, which is also awesome. They had a free X-Men comic book, which I grabbed. I haven't read yet, so I wouldn't be able to tell you how good or poor that is. But we did also have a Power Rangers one that I picked up. So we'll see how that goes. But really, what I was really excited about were these two right here. So we've got Empyre #1, a huge Marvel crossover between the Avengers, the Fantastic Four, as well as we had another giant size X-Men. This time it's Magneto. Before it was Emma Frost and Storm. So let's talk about Empyre #1. Now, if you've seen my YouTube channel and heard me talk about it before, you know that the prelude to this was incoming, and I was not impressed whatsoever. I did definitely want to go ahead and give Empyre #1 a chance, with it being the big Marvel crossover right now. So basically, what we have here is the Hulkling, who was a young Avenger. He is both Kree and Skrull. So out of the blue, what we learn in incoming #1 is that he goes out to become the Emperor of the new united Kree Skrull Empire. No one knows why this is so far, but what we do know, and what happens at the beginning of this comic here, is that it's discovered that this armada of Kree Skrull warships is headed toward Earth. They're actually first discovered by the Fantastic Four. Now, it turns out that this new Kree Skrull Empire or alliance chose the Hulkling because of his Kree and Skrull lineage. So he's basically the linchpin to this new alliance. It also turns out that the empire they're referring to in this book is not this Kree Skrull Empire. It is actually this other empire of these plant people called the Kotati, who's actually worked with the Avengers before and living on the blue area of the moon, which, for those of you that may know, the blue area of the moon in Marvel is a area of the moon that actually has kind of a bubble atmosphere, so you can actually breathe and live on that portion of the moon. In fact, in the X-Men, the Summers house, where Scott Summers and all his family live in the blue area of the moon. So it's interesting, and I won't go into too much more spoilers here, but we do find out why this alliance has come together and why they have come to Earth after these Kotati. And there's actually kind of a turnabout face here. There's a quick change in the story that maybe you didn't see coming, or maybe you did, but it is really, really interesting to see some assumptions being made and then us learning that those assumptions are wrong. So the start of this conflict is definitely at hand. What I don't like about this comic so far is basically, like every crossover event, there's going to be a ton of books that you need to buy if you want every nook and cranny of the story. So again, I'm not so sure how clear this is going to be, but I mean, look at that. Look at that craziness. That's all the books. Taking a cue from the MCU, there's 4 phases there. Now, don't get me wrong, I appreciate that they've listed all this out so you know what's coming ahead of time and so you know what to collect. But boy, that is a metric shit ton of comics that you need to buy if you want to know every nook and cranny of the Empyre crossover storyline. I know I talked about it with Volsker on our podcast, that the Absolute Carnage crossover was very much the same, where you had a lot of different series that you had to collect if you wanted to have every nook and cranny of the story. It's not something that's new to comics. It's something that's been happening for a while. It really frustrates people. Something I wish they would stop. But, you know, you can, like me, I'm just going to get the main entries and the X-Men stuff. I'm not going to get anything else. That should give me enough, and generally does with the crossover events. You know, just collecting the main storyline will give you enough of the story for you to understand what is going on. But you will encounter some things where you're not going to exactly know why this is going on, or you'll get an Easter egg that you'll only know about if you've read one of these tangential side issues to the major crossover event. But hey, if you've got the coinage and the interest, I mean, hey, go right ahead. I mean, of course, I'm an advocate for giving good business to your local comic shop, and so certainly, if this gives you a reason to give them money and give them sales, then please, by all means. But if you're like me and you're on a budget, you kind of look at that and you kind of shake your head a little bit. But nonetheless, it has begun. We are in phase one of this Empyre crossover. The Krull and Skree Empire that is being led by Emperor Hulkling has made it to Earth, and the conflict has begun. So if you haven't picked that one up already, I would definitely suggest you go ahead and do so. Go to your local comic book shop and pick up Empyre #1. If I had to rate it, I would go ahead and give it a solid 8 out of 10. 8 out of 10. All right. And the thing that I was really excited for here was the giant size Magneto. This came out today. As excited I was for it, I gotta tell you, these giant size X-Men, this series, the Emma Frost one that came out in Jean Grey, now this one, they're a little bit disappointing. The events in them aren't really character development or origin or anything like that. It really is just certain events that there's not a whole lot of context for. Spoiler alert, although I'll try not to be too bad with the spoilers here. In this book here, this is basically all about Magneto procuring an island for Emma Frost. Now, what is interesting, though, is Namor is the owner of the island. And in order to get Namor to let Magneto purchase this island for Emma Frost, they actually kind of go on a deep sea adventure. It's really, really interesting. Magneto puts this bubble around his head, and him and Namor, again, I don't want to give too much away here, but it's actually a really cool deep sea battle. So those were definitely the highlights for me. Not two characters that I ever expected to see working together in a comic book, but Namor, who we've not seen a lot of, and Magneto do join forces for just a little bit here in Giant Size X-Men Magneto #1. I don't know if that means there's going to be a #2, but nonetheless, so I don't quite understand why Emma Frost needs this island. I mean, she has Magneto do her a favor, and he creates this citadel. I'll give you a good picture here. You've probably even seen it online already. It's kind of spooky looking. It's got a sentinel head there, so I don't quite know what that's all about. But yeah, Emma Frost, had Magneto purchase this island from Namor, and she had him built that creepy looking citadel there. For what reason? I don't know. And that's why I'm a little bit disappointed in these giant size X-Men book, because these isolated events that they're showing us, they have no context. We don't know why they're happening. If you recall, in the giant size X-Men, it was Emma and Jean Grey, where Storm comes down with this like crazy illness, and no one knows why or how or anything like that. So, again, there's just not a whole lot of context to what's going on in these giant size X-Men book. But I will say with this one, again, Magneto and Namor teaming up, particularly since we don't get to see Namor a whole lot these days, was really, really cool to see. So that one I'm going to give a more than solid 9 out of 10. 9 out of 10 for the giant size X-Men Magneto. Okay? those are my pulls for this free comic book day, this new comic book day. There was certainly some other stuff that came out. Let me know, what you're collecting. Is there something that you picked up today? Tell me about it. Tell me what I should be reading. But of course, I'm mainly an X-Men fan, and I will be following this main crossover as much as possible. So that is what I'll be doing. So there you go, guys. So I think both of these comics were solid. Um, the Empyre #1, I feel was a good start. We look like we're getting the conflict going, and we're starting to understand exactly what the context of this is all about. And the giant size Magneto, again, not quite sure where that story's going or what those events are all about, but it was really cool to see Magneto and Namor battling together in the deep sea. Just imagine what kind of things that they're battling down there. And yeah, it kind of gets you excited.